Mr. Micah.
Thank you. Mr. Nordstrom, I don't think I've ever read so much testimony, but what you provided last night I thought was particularly informative. And talking about on page 7, you talk about the rating level assigned for threat categories for our various posts. And there are 4 of them: critical, high, medium, and low. And we have 264 posts that where we had security concerns, overseas diplomatic posts at the time of Benghazi. There were 14 posts rated as either high or critical, not a huge number, but 14. Two of them, 2 of the posts were Benghazi and Tripoli. Are you aware of that, Mr. Thompson? Mr. Nordstrom, you put it in there. So it's not like they had this incredible array of posts that were on this high alert. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. The very small amount were high or critical.
And then finally, again, I have not read the classified. I read the unclassified version. Mr. Chaffetz pointed out later in the report where it looks like they tried to cook this to put blame basically on the lower level. There's a certain plateau, and then everybody below gets the blame. Up on page 4, when I had my time before, I said, Embassy Tripoli, this is from the report, did not demonstrate strong and sustained advocacy with Washington for increased security for Special Mission Benghazi. And yet we've heard your predecessor, Mr. Hicks, pleaded for additional help. You pleaded for it. It's documented, and you didn't get it. You actually got a reduction. Is that correct, as was pointed out?
Yes, drastic reduction.
So it wasn't like this was all over the place. Finally, for the ARB, you put in here to ignore the role of senior department leadership played before, during, and after the September 11th attack sends a clear message to all State Department employees. It looks like they're whitewashing the folks at the higher pay grades and levels, and you all are taking the blame. Is that a fair assessment?
I think the basic message is that whether or not you're sitting out at the post requesting resources, preparing for testimony before this committee, or standing on a building surrounded by an armed mob attacking you, the message is the same. You're on your own.
Mr. Hicks?
I share what Mr. Nordstrom had to say.
Mr. Thompson, and I still can't believe that you were never interviewed and you had one of the most strategic positions by the ARB, and that is true?
I'll let you use strategic, sir. But,
well,
it's a tool that should remain on the menu of options is probably my basic point. Okay. And it was early taken off the menu.
It's a very sad commentary. Yield back. Thank you, Mr.
Would gentleman yield?
Yeah, well, I've got time.
Thank you. I think what we've heard here today clearly is that in the future, RSOs, Deputy Chief of Missions need to put everything in a cable. In the future, when you know there's a security problem and you're being told your application would not be helpful, it would not be wanted, or people say just be patient, or they say don't put it in a cable, the answer is the next ARB will probably whitewash, the same as this one. On October 10th, Ranking Member and I and many others sat through a hearing in which it was made very clear that message after message after message, including the actual, if you will, open source information about the attacks that occurred on other diplomatic missions and our own. If that's not saying loudly, they blew a hole in our wall, when are you going to give us the security we need, then I'm afraid the deafness at least Undersecretary Kennedy's level is not in any way curable by technology known to amplify sound. So with that, this hearing is closed, but this investigation is not over.
Three State Department officials wrapping up nearly 6 hours of testimony before the House Oversight Committee with just one 10-minute break in between. As you've been seeing on the screen, we will give you a chance to see some of the highlights of today's hearing at 9 o'clock Eastern over on our companion network, C-SPAN. Also on Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. And, of course, it'll be online at cspan.org. Speaking of online, lots of social media reaction. Twitter.com/cspan, some tweets using Benghazi, the hashtag. Proudly we hail. Ray Stugart says, Commander-in-Chief clearly never heard of the Marines' oath to never leave one of their own behind. This one from Lilia, who says that DNC Chief Wasserman Schultz decries Benghazi whistleblower hearing as, quote, a witch hunt against Hillary Clinton. Again, that's twitter.com/cspan. And plenty of posts, too, on our Facebook page, facebook.com/cspan. Nilda says, direct to the topic, the reason why the Obama administration manipulated the truth about the attack on Benghazi was obviously political. Patricia says, now, if this hearing can answer who decided to stand down and why, then it's a waste of time. Join the conversation there on Facebook.